The lack of brain cells is appalling. I am absolutely disgusted at seeing what Bowden did in this episode. Any tactician or advisor or anyone that is in a position of power to where they know how to govern a battle, if you play strategy games, you would also know this. You never give up the tactical advantage of the high ground if you have that much of an advantage. Like, they had a great number of men. Bowden had this great amount of men underneath him. He had a hilltop advantage, he had a fortress, and he had a gate going through the mountain. But then, the prince burns a flag, and he's like, nope, I'm not standing for this. I'm gonna run out this gate, give up my advantage, and let's just let my men to die as fodder. That was what was going through Bowden's mind in this episode, and when I saw that, I'm like, this dude continues and continues to shit on himself every time he's on an episode. Like, every time I've seen him, every time he's had words gushing out of his mouth in Arslan, this dude straight up is stupid. He's so fucking stupid. I've pointed out many times in the past when he popped up in previous episodes, but seeing this, it's just on a whole new level of just stupid. So, Bowden, personally, I can give a shit about. I don't really care much about him if he lives or dies. Well, I hope he does kind of die in this series because he's just kind of a crusty character that doesn't really know how to govern over battles in a story. And that's kind of what the main point of this episode was. And so, getting into other factors, the episode was to actually showcase the motivation of the other prince that's trying to ascend to the throne besides Arslan. And I guess this changes the perspective and the different type of pacing we've gotten from the other episodes recently of Arslan, or the heroic legend of Arslan. Because if you think about it, majority of the series has been focusing on Arslan, but he is the title character, so of course it should be focusing on him. But they finally changed the perspective over to see what this side is doing, and what they're doing to kind of gain the throne and become more powerful. And so the episode overall, it's very simplistic in nature, and it doesn't really serve to progress much besides Bowden about to meet his end and die, giving us characterization of a supposed bodyguard of the previous king that is now there and survived and working for this new prince, and then also this new dude, you know, that was introduced earlier on in the series, pops back up once again, and is coming to go to Arslan and help him out. And that's really the main things you could just pull out of this episode, besides the ending with, you know, Arslan signing those contracts of, like, how slavery is gone, which we already knew that was the main point of the series since episode 1, and then also finding out more about how he was doing a declaration against the other empire that he's going up against to get his throne back. So, I mean, those two things at the end were kind of obvious. We already knew that was going to happen. It just sets into motion to say, oh, shit's happening. And so, episode of Arslan, probably one of the weakest episodes, I think, of the series. I mean, it did some good things with introducing some characters and stuff, but I personally am kind of upset that this episode was used so late in the game, because if you do know, there's only going to be about 3 or 4 episodes left of Arslan, like 3 or 4. I think this is episode 19, and this series is only going to be like 23, 24 episodes, so that's not much at all, since this is episode 19. I mean, that is really quick to get to the end, and if you think about the standard length of a Arslan arc, we're going to get nowhere near probably completing a good arc if we're going to be focusing next week's episode maybe on the situation of Bowden. I mean, if next week's episode is focused on, once again, on this other prince that's going up against Bowden, and that would mean that, once again, we're only going to have maybe 3 or 4 episodes just setting up for the precursor to war. So if I had to place my bets right now before we get to the final episode of Arslan, we're probably going to end on a cliffhanger to where Arslan is going to be marching his army into his homeland, and then the series is going to end. Season 1 will end. That is my bets I'm saying right now, judging by the pacing so far, and the way this episode's going, especially with probably next week's. That is my assumption. So, yeah, Arslan, it was okay. Bowden, oh my god, dude, it just, facepalm, man. Facepalm, facepalm, facepalm. So tell me your thoughts, comments below. You have a wonderful day or not, wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi.